Top 10 muscle cars most collectors want. Conventional wisdom would say that the 1967 Chevrolet Camaro would be the most desired year, since that's when the iconic pony car was introduced. But recently, the 1968 has heated up for collectors. Actually, the average price is pretty close, with $60,391 for 1967 and $60,571 for 1968. But simple math tells us that the 1968 are selling for more. Either way, it means that there are still some affordable Camaros out there, though they may be in project car condition. The top-selling 1968 Camaros are going for over $500,000 and are generally Copio Camaros with dealer-installed 427 CI V8 SS. It took $583,000 for some lucky bidder to land a 1968 Camaro RS SS with a 427 installed by Baldwin Chevrolet. The car is a perfect condition, unrestored survivor car with just 22,883 original miles on the odometer. On the flip side of that coin, great condition 327 and 396 Camaros are available around the average $60,000 price range. The Camaro's cousin car, the Pontiac Firebird, isn't seeing as much volume but does have a higher average price than its Chevy twin. 1970 is the top year for Firebird collectibles, but again is not a wallet-busting model. A good condition 1970 Firebird Trans Am with a 400 CI V8 can be had for as little as $50,000, which is a bargain price for a classic muscle car this cool. Those collectors looking for a perfect condition, matching numbers 1970, which is all of them, will have to shell out a bit more. Six figures is what it takes to get the best of the best for this model year. The top seller is a white with blue interior 1970 Pontiac Trans Am Ram Air rear with a 375 horsepower 400 V8. It is one of 88 produced and went through a thorough body-off restoration. As weird as it sounds, $175,000 is actually kind of a bargain too for such a magnificent ride. Some of the rarest Mopars are Dodge Coronets like the 1966 Deluxe 4-door Hemi and the 1969 RT Convertible, both of which sold for over $600,000. The 1970 Coronet market is a little more reasonable, but anything with a Hemi is obviously going to be steep. In the mid to low range, it is possible to find great condition Coronets with 440 V8s, but they won't be 6-pack models. Still, that's a pretty awesome set of wheels for around $50,000, $60,000. The two most important things in collecting Mopars are matching numbers and a 426th Street Hemi. The highest selling 1970 Coronet RT has both and is a 4-speed, which is another value adder for Mopar muscle. This dark green beauty is one of only 13 Hemi Coronet RTs built in 1970 and one of only 4 to come equipped with a manual transmission. It's a California car that had a full rotisserie restoration, which is why it sold for almost $250,000 at Macomb Kissimmee 2023. The 1970 Plymouth Road Runner is another model where the Hemi makes all the difference. A fully restored but non-matching numbers 383 sold on Bring a Trailer for $44,000, while any matching numbers 426 Hemi car is well over $100,000. Great condition 464 cars with original engines generally fall into the average price of around $75,000, which actually isn't that bad. A 440 CI V8 is still a hell of an engine engine, and any Roadrunner equipped with one is going to be fast, nearly hitting 200K. The top seller for the 1970 class, of course, has a Hemi, but no 4-speed, or it likely would have went for more. The car was completely restored and has not only the original powertrain, but the original body panels too, which isn't always possible, especially if it's an East Coast car. It's kind of ironic at how expensive Roadrunners are getting, because when they first came out, they were budget performance rides with tons of speed and very few features. As the most iconic American car of all time, clearly the Ford Mustang was going to be on the list, but probably not a lot of people, this editor included, expected 1970 to be the year with the highest average auction price. The smart money would have been on 1968, but they averaged just $53,856, while the 1970 are almost at $90,000. The stats may be a little skewed with this one, because all the top sellers are Boss 429S, which were not available in 1968. At least the top 10 1970 Mustangs sold at auction are Boss 429 SS, but many of them appear to be the same cars, switching hands multiple times. The Boss of the Boss 429S sold for almost $500,000 at Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale 2024, a much more affordable, completely restored Mach 1 with an original 428 Ci V8 sold on Bring a Trailer a few years ago for $96,000. While the Mach 1 is actually a faster car, it's not as rare as the Boss 429, which is reflected in the price difference. The Pontiac GTO may have kicked off the classic muscle car era in 1964, but that ain't the year that collectors are spending the most average money on. That distinction belongs to 1970, where even less collectible examples are nearing the six-figure mark. Actually, there are plenty of great condition GTO Judges and Rom Air 3 and IV cars available in the sweet $70,000 to $80,000 range, but there are no steals with the year. Hitting a cool million, the top-selling 1970 GTO is a truly special ride. It's an Orbit Orange GTO Judge Ram Air 4 convertible that is one of 7 equipped with a Turbo 400 higher-automatic transmission. It started life as a factory exhibition car and underwent a rotisserie restoration sometime before 2000. This car was part of a collection of 1969 and 1970 Rom Air 4 GTOs that all sold at Macomb Kissimmee 2023. With an average auction price of nearly $1,100, the 1970 Dodge Challenger is a top-tier collectible muscle car. The lowest sale for this model year was around $16,000, which sounds affordable, but that was for a car equipped with a 225 Ci Slant 6 engine. It seems absurd that Dodge ever let a 1970 muscle car out of the factory with such a puny motor, but they apparently did. For a Challenger with a V8, the price rises drastically, and for a Hemi car, it closes in on the $1 million mark. The top-selling 1970 Challenger is actually a celebrity car known as the Black Ghost. There was an urban legend about a mysterious black 1970 Challenger that would show up randomly in the Detroit area to blow the doors off all competitors and then disappear into the darkness. It turned out the legend was true, and the driver was a Detroit police officer named Godfrey Qualls, who moonlighted as the baddest street racer of all time. His original Hemi Black Ghost was sold for nearly $1 million at Macomb Indy 2023. With auction prices ranging from $6,000 to $600,000, there really is a 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle for every budget, but obviously the more collectible ones are going to be at the top end of the scale, just as the 426 Hemi is the make-or-break engine with Mopars. The 454 is the do-or-die engine for GM muscle cars. In reality, it's the 454 LS6 that takes an awesome Chevelle SS and turns it into a holy grail car. In fact, the LS6 variant can add hundreds of thousands of dollars to the value of Chevelle. LS6 cars in excellent condition regularly fetch over $100,000, but the top-selling 1970 Chevelle SS crossed the auction block at $600,000. There were some mitigating circumstances that made this car so expensive, with the most obvious being that it is a rare convertible. The production numbers for Chevelles are kind of goofy because the platform included four-door sedans, station wagons, and even El Caminos, with Chevy not always distinguishing between them. The best estimate is that there were around 1,454 Chevelle SS convertibles ever built, with far fewer having the LS6. The most expensive regular production classic muscle car ever sold was a bright blue 1971 Hemi Cuda convertible that went at auction for $3.5 million in 2014. In 2021, a Winchester Gray 1971 Hemi Cuda was bid up to $4.8 million, but failed to hit the $6.5 million reserve and didn't sell. In 1971, only 115 Cudas left the factory with a 426th Street Hemi under the hood, and of those, a mere 12 were convertibles, so these are true unicorn cars and hyper collectible, because the bright blue Hemi Cuda sold more than 5 years ago and the Winchester Gray didn't hit the reserve. Their prices are not reflected in the 1971 Barracuda market. The highest selling 1971 went for almost $1 million and came with an M. Night Shyamalan twist. It didn't have a Hemi. A bright red 1971 Barracuda with a 446 pack went for $962,500 in 2021, proving that the second best Mopar engine can also push the price of a car into the stratosphere. All 3 years of the second-gen Dodge Charger have an average auction price worthy of this list, but the 1969 model takes the top spot, mostly because it was lucky enough to include the Charger Daytona, which is $1 million car every time they sell. A 1 of 16 1971 Charger Daytona Hemi 4-speed broke the bank in August 2024, selling for $3 million, beating the previous record holder by $1.57 million. The highest selling non-Daytona was a Charger 500 that went for $341,000 in 2023. For the 1969 Charger, the Hemi is an important factor, but the major driver of value is a crazy nose cone and wild flying rear wing. Considering that only 232 Charger RTs ever came equipped with a 426th Street Hemi, it may be the most undervalued muscle car from the classic era. They are, in fact, so rare that it's hard to even find one that has been auctioned off recently. Finally, in case anyone is wondering what you get for that $1,100 low-price 1969 Charger, it was a Dukes of Hazzard General Lee clone, and the stated auction sale has to be a misprint because it's pretty sweet. So we have shared with you top 10 muscle cars most collectors want. Hope they will be useful to you. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.